Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
Well, another Q&A go around with Brett. How you doing today, Brett?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It was, it was an interesting weekend of just all kinds of things. So I'm happy it's Monday. Happy to be back at work.
Still moving forward, huh?
Back to the grind.
Still showing up. So we got a question from Will Clark. Thank you, Will. He commented on a post that you put out there about another Lamborghini you bought.
Correct.
It was a weird-looking Lamborghini. It said cat on it.
Yeah.
He said, interesting to know how you came up with the decision to choose a cat. I think you get this question more than anyone, at least in our group.
Yeah.
On how do you know when to get equipment, what's the next piece of equipment to get. But let's just attack Will's question.
Let's address Will's question first, and then we can kind of go from there. So, if anybody's been to our yards, I mean, I've never owned any other material handler than a Centobogan, right? We bought our first Centobogan maybe 7-8 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, something like that, and it was an 825, and it was a good machine. At that time, we had a dealer that was one selling those machines, and that we bought other equipment from, and so they were a good dealer to work with. And it could have been even longer than 8 years ago. Maybe it was
around. I feel like it was around when we opened Boise. Maybe a year.
So it could have been
a year after
so
Boise.
it could have been 10 years ago. So long story short, they kind of talked us into we used to be excavators only, and into our first material handler. And to Centobogan's credit, that machine and the at 825 line has been great to us. So since then, we've bought I think six more 825s.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've all been good, and we kind of knew we needed to kind of order a couple more material handlers. And since then, the last couple years, Centobogan has went away from the dealership model in our area, and they went to where you can buy the machine directly from Centobogan, and then they have what they call third-party service providers. So there's like local shops that do the work and whatever else. So you don't really have a dealership to call. So I felt like the customer service component of the equipment had went down. Now the guys that has worked on our equipment, he's done a great job, but we couldn't order parts directly from Centobogan up until here just very recently. We were having trouble, getting things and keeping things in stock, equipment wise for like parts wise. And so we were like, okay, let's look at all of our other options. And this is like any time in business, right? Like when you feel like the customer service isn't quite where it should be or where it was, or you feel like, let's say on the scrap side where pricing isn't exactly where it was, then it kind of opens you up to looking at your options. Not that you're going to make a switch, but it just makes you it forces your hand to say, let's take a look and see what's out there. I've never bought cat equipment. We ended up buying a cat excavator for our new yard that we opened up in Pendleton with B&K, right? They were very happy with the equipment, very happy with the service, very happy with the dealer, which is Western States over in our area. So we were like, well, let's talk to the guy. Let's talk to Western States guys. They were now making material handlers and trying to break into that market, and so we gave them a shot. We put them side by side. Put the quotes side by side. We put the weight of the equipment side by side, the dealership side by side, or lack of a dealership side by side, and then kind of went down line item for line item, like specs. What do they offer here? What does this machine offer there? And kind of went through it. And at the end of the day, it was a combination of price, service, and an opportunity to try another line where we felt like we were going to get support by a dealer that's really big in our area. And so that was kind of our decision making that went into those cats. So I made a deal. I said, hey, if I buy two, is there a deal we can work? They were accommodative. Part of it is them trying to break into the market. And I understand that, I understand what it's like to kind of have to go in aggressive on price to kind of get my foot in the door so I can prove to you that my service is worth its weight in salt, right? And so I knew that going into it, that there was going to be, some sort of price discrepancy. I wasn't expecting it to be what it was. I felt like they made a strong run at the business, and I'm speaking of Cat. And then I really liked their sales guys. I liked this guy's name, Austin Berry. He's a young guy. He's a hustler. He spent a lot of time trying to cultivate the business on the excavator side, made a lot of switches. He kind of made what was best for our business on the excavator, and kind of, basically took some components of an excavator and said, well, you guys don't really need that for the scrap side, and kind of basically built us the machine that we needed at the cost that we kind of felt comfortable with. So they kind of did the same thing on the material handler side. They made a few adjustments for us. We encouraged them to put belly pans underneath their machines. Senebogen came with a belly pan. So when we put the quotes side by side, we said, okay, what is the features that are strong for the Senebogen? What are the features that are strong for the 825? And then is there a way that, you guys would be willing to kind of match some of these features, like one of them being the belly pan protective plate on the drive line, drive shaft that's underneath your the body of the machine. Just because we are in a scrap environment, and you can run over something every once in a while, kick something up, next thing you know, you're repairing.
You would think anyone having a material handler would have that belly.
But it's not common. Like it's there's other material handler companies that's not a common.
It's just not
deal.
a common thing.
So Cat, they took the machine in, they custom fabbed for both of them belly pans for us, and it just goes back to service, right? Like they listened to us. They wanted to make it work. They wanted to get the machines in, and I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be open. Like I'm very strong and convicted about how I like to do things. I like the same piece of equipment. I mean, we run Volvo L90s, right? And then we have one Komatsu that we tried because that was that other previous dealership. We didn't really like it. We never bought another one, right? But all the Volvo L90s, and we got a lot of them across the yards. That's the machine. I mean, that's what we like. That's what we stuck with. So we'll see if the 825 it ends up being a better machine than the Cats. They might be the last two Cats we buy.
Yeah.
Or it could be the start of
all Cats
buying 20 more. And I think that's where we were at. It made sense to give somebody else another shot. And so far, so good. Everybody feels really good about the Cats. The operators like them.
Where is it at? Where is that Cat at?
We have two now. So we have one in Caldwell and one in our Hayburn yard, and then we have the excavator that's in Pendleton.
Okay, so 3 Cat machines, 2 material handlers.
So I hope that helps you, Will. I mean, I think the big thing about equipment that people need to understand is that the equipment, for the most part, will do the job. I mean, whether it's an Aljon 580 or an RB 6000 or an overbuilt or a whatever the next one is, right? I mean, they're all very similar. It's just who's going to support the equipment.
Well, because that downtime will kill you, that downtime.
You might save 20 grand or 50 grand or whatever here or there, right? But like having been in the business for as long as we have, if you're down for a week, whatever you think you saved by saving that 20 grand or that 50 grand, if you're literally down for a week and you can't operate your business, especially if you're at a small, medium-sized yard, where that is the one big lifeblood piece of equipment that you have and you don't have a backup, that's a killer, right? That's a cash flow killer. It's a business killer. Like it's hard on you. So when you pick an equipment, you got to choose wisely. Approach it with somebody who's going to support your business, service the equipment, stand behind the equipment, and then have parts on the shelf to be able to get you up and running. It's never year 1 that decides the equipment. It's year 4, year 6 that really decides, like, was that equipment really a good buy?
When it gets some wear and tear on it.
Yeah, I mean, because in our business, we're hard on shit. Yeah. That's the way it is.
Well, I guess we'll see. In a few years. We'll do a follow-up on this in 3 years.
Yeah. We'll talk to you again, Will, and see what, let me know. I'll let you know what I think.
I'm curious what you use, Will. You're with 3rd Gen Salvage.
Yeah.
I wonder what you use. If you listen to this, we'll tag you. Put it in your comment what you're using, because I'm kind of curious why you asked that question now.
Yep.
You get that question a lot. I hear it asking, like, how do you guys know when it's time to buy a baler or wire chopper and all that? And do you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, just on a general overview for us. I look at it as production, and we just went through this with the Zato, right? We had our buddy Jake Bronstein kind of helped us with that project, and basically what we did is we took inventory in, and we decided, okay, we were starting to basically build inventory of a product that we thought we could upgrade, which was skeletons and other good clean steel, and make like a low residual product, like what some might call low residual, some might call a prepared prime, some people might call it a bushling. I mean, it depends on the steel mill.
It's just a better product. You
it's
get
a
better
shredded,
throughput.
Denser product that steel mills like to. The guys that are making wire rod or a good clean like sheet or certain products, they like a consistent chemistry, dense product. So. And I'll just go into Zato just because that was a
pretty recent
machine.
Yeah.
So we were building inventory on a product that we were baling, right? So we were baling, making a number one bundle. Well, anytime you've ever baled skeletons or anytime you've ever baled anything that's stouter, it just creates wear and tear on your baler, right, inside the box.
Oh, yeah.
So our guys were fighting the skeletons. They were fighting, some of the lighter gauge stuff. It bales up nice and clean, makes a nice dense bale, but it's still. It's taking away time that you could be, say, baling, white goods, or you could be baling a number 2 bundle or whatever else. So we're like, is there a piece of equipment out there that we could bring in that could allow us to create the same or better product and not basically get us to there was enough production volume capacity that would allow us to take our inventory down over time and basically create. I like to say like a 30 to 40% upside opportunity, not on price but on production. So that gives us room to grow
on the throughput. So now you can go buy more.
So now I take pressure off my balers, right? So once I take pressure off my balers, now my balers have they got more opportunity, and I put that pressure on a piece of equipment like the Zato. Well, we're not buying that many skeletons. We're not buying that much material that we can run through it. So now I've got, say, 40 to 50% upside for growth with that piece of equipment. So I look at it as, can I produce enough profit with that machine to crack the nut, first of all, with my current volume, or even say 10% less if the market slows down, right?
Yes.
And then if I can, I feel like I'm in a safe position that I could buy it and break even. But if it creates a lot of upside on throughput and volume, then I'm in a really strong position because now I got bandwidth for growth. So now if I add a yard or 2 or 3, then I'm in a strong position where I don't have to necessarily add equipment. As I'm adding those yards, I'm gonna, at least for that
some
type
transportation.
I'm gonna have to take the transportation side and have to move it, but at least I've got the ability to process it so I can get it through the system at an expedited pace, which then brings us to at that point, maybe we take a hard look at transportation, right? So now you become maybe need a truck or 2 as you add facilities.
And then you even take a hard look at, like, do we need to buy more to feed it, And we haven't had to ask that question in our room for a while because we've always had enough material,
Yeah.
Now we get
you start bumping into production capacity, right?
Because we would always buy as many tons as we can produce, really. So now we're at a point where the guys out there buying it, trying to get more material in, we got a little more pressure on us. I think that pressure is a good thing.
Yeah, well, because here's the deal: in these especially in volatile markets, if you can't get the material through the system, right? Yeah. If you can't, you hear a lot of people talk about, say, automotive shredders, and with automotive shredders, I think it's more of the case right now that they can't get enough shreddable material to run through.
Yeah,
because that's what's going to drive their cost per ton down. But if you're in a situation where you've got more scrap coming in than you've got processing capacity, now you're a lot more susceptible to big swings in the market, which can be a good thing if the market's moving up to a certain extent, but it can be a really bad thing if it's moving down because now you're not selling in the same market you're buying.
It's not worth the risk.
And so if you're not selling in the same market you're buying, which was our conversation with Aldo, on the copper trade podcast, then you're susceptible to market swings. And let's say the market is going up. Well, now you're paying more for scrap. You've got more expensive inventory on the ground, and then you're building inventory against your inability to process. That creates a problem. And so it's a different type of problem, but it's still a problem within your business.
Because typically it's going to catch up to you. Yeah, you might have hit it good on 1 month because you bought it on a lower, but then you're buying, like you said, you bought all that extra material that you couldn't get through, and maybe it takes double the hit that you thought in the beginning. So you're actually hurting more than you thought. Like I just think it's not worth that gamble. You just want to buy it, sell it same month if possible. I know that's not always possible.
The smartest guys I know in our business, and I mean the guys that have built real big businesses, not the guy that you know down the road who's got 10,000 ton in a pile that he owns it free and clear, and everybody comes around and asks him to buy it every couple of years when the price goes up. The guys that have built real businesses that have grown and expanded, every time I've ever heard them talk about inventory and every time I've ever heard them talk about how to build a scrap business, they say you've got to be able to get through your inventory and get it to the end, get it to the dirt every single month, because then you're buying and selling in the same month. Your margins are a lot more clear. Your cash flow is a lot better. So going back to whenever I've felt like I'm in a position where I'm not able to produce what I can buy, which is a good problem for a little bit. But if you don't catch that up on the production side and you can't then process that and create a sellable product, then you're now behind the 8 ball. And you're behind the 8 ball if you can't keep up cash flow wise on the buy side, or you're behind the 8 ball if you're building inventory and building piles, and then you just can create yourself a big mess.
Well, I like it for us. I was excited when we put that in because I saw the growth opportunity. It just that was the next step we had briefly touched on over the years, but we really took it serious. And thank you, Bronstein, for helping us get that.
Yeah.
So
help us go through the financial steps and modeling that out, and what would that do to your cash flow? What would that do to your your inventory position? What would that do to your buying capacity? There's just so many factors that go into it. But I mean, we've had this conversation on the equipment side, a lot, and anybody ever have any questions, I'm a very open book. I love the Q&A podcast for that reason. So if you have questions, fire away, send them to Nick, send them to me, comment on the LinkedIn. We read through all the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yep. Get us some more questions, everybody.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.